Hey, it's Inve. Today I've got a slightly less positive video on AC6 than usual for you guys. Before we get into that though, and I lose all the rest of my subscribers, anybody new, please hit that sub button, leave a comment, like, all that good YouTuber stuff that everyone loves to beg for. And with the shameless self-promotion out of the way, let's get into the topic of multiplayer. So, historically in the AC games, I have really enjoyed the multiplayer. I've thought it is the best part, bar none. I don't think the single player of the old Armored Core games is very fun, personally, but the multiplayer of For Answer and Verdict Day are some of the most fun I've ever had in a video game. And I consistently play those games over other multiplayer experiences, even today. So why don't I feel the same way about Armored Core 6? It all boils down to the variety of playstyles that you have available to you as a player. In previous Armored Core titles, the variety of options you had was massive. Your engagement ranges spanned distances of almost a kilometer. In Armored Core 6, our range band has effectively been reduced down to the 10 to 300 meter range, with missiles sometimes reaching out to somewhere around 450. In my main game, Armored Core 4 Answer, this would be considered close range, bordering on mid-range. Generally mid-range is between like 500 and 600 meters in that game. So, just in range alone, our options have been vastly compressed. However, our mechanical options have also been vastly compressed by the stagger system and by Assault Boost. So let's get into that. So let's talk about Assault Boost first, because I think that it is one of the main contributors to Armored Core 6's state of multiplayer. Its main issue is that while being the best movement option in the game, it is also the best offensive and defensive option in the game. Being that while you're in Assault Boost, your outgoing damage is buffed and your incoming damage is reduced. The buff that this provides is large enough that something like, say, the Zimmerman gets over the stagger of most light and mid-weight builds if you just shoot it out of an Assault Boost. Because of these things, and because your kick is tied to your Assault Boost, the game generally devolves into Assault Boosting into the enemy as fast as possible with two high stagger weapons so that you can fire them out of the Assault Boost and follow up with a kick. That brings us nicely to our next point, Hardlock. In the past, I have been a defender of Hardlock. I thought it wasn't going to be that bad, but it's kind of that bad. Not necessarily because of the target tracking on your bullets, but because of the tracking on melees. If you're not aware, hard locking onto an enemy while assault boosting towards them will both force your AC to face them and automatically aim your kick towards them. So all you really have to do is press the button when it's at the right range. This is not great, because it means that people using a quad or a reverse joint can simply spam kicks in your face over and over and over again, as I'm sure you've experienced online and as I'm sure you're seeing in the background right now. With that said, the hardlock is still pretty effective at making your bullets hit. While there is an accuracy penalty for using hardlock, it makes tracking lightweight and fast targets very, very easy. Initially, when I saw this, I had thought that the game would be focused around dodging projectiles in multiplayer to stay alive as lightweight, something like Toho. And while this works in the single player, in the multiplayer it is much less effective due to the netcode being attacker-sided. Attacker-sided netcode means that if a player fires their gun and the shot hits their target on their own screen, regardless if the opponent dodged their projectile on their screen, they will take damage. For the player dodging a projectile, this means the visual of the projectile and the damage may not be in the same place depending on their network conditions. Many players prefer attacker-sided netcode over defender-sided netcode, since in defender-sided games you will frequently see bullets hit the target on your end but do no damage. This is caused by the opponent dodging on the defender side. However, with the inclusion of hardlock, I feel that defender-sided netcode is required to make dodging projectiles consistent, since you're no longer able to avoid damage by keeping out of an enemy block box. The ricochet system, while less impactful than Assault Boost, unfortunately makes long-range play considerably less effective with rifles. Even the closest thing we have to a sniper rifle, the stun needle, will bounce to any range that one could associate with a sniper. The combination of these factors and the addition of a stagger system have put the game in a state where the meta is effectively a game of rock, paper, scissors. The rock being a shotgun quad, the paper being a laser tank, and the scissors being a missile boat. Since rifles and machine guns exist within the same range band as shotguns, they end up outclassed and pushed out of use. And while lasers are fantastic, unless you're stacking defenses, you will be staggered and killed in most cases by a shotgunner before winning the DPS race. So, what's the solution? Unfortunately, with these issues stemming from core mechanics of the game, we have very little recourse to fix this as players while still being able to play online. While a ban list may extend the time to kill of the game, the low total AP numbers mean it can only be extended so far. The solution that a lot of tournament runners have come to has been banning all quad and tank legs from participation. However, in my opinion, this is only making builds less effective, not actually introducing more variety in playstyle. While biped and reverse droid only tournaments may not suffer to the same extent, the same issues that plague the game at large will once again be made apparent with reverse droid legs, since their kick is at a longer range than that of a biped. As it stands, the game's multiplayer is in dire need of balancing from our robot overlords at From Software. I do have a wish list for balance changes, so this next portion of the video is directed to any From Software employee who happens to see this. While I'm sure none of you are watching, I like to play pretend sometimes. The first major change I'd like to see in AC6's multiplayer is to have the AP tripled in PvP. This game feels like our damage is balanced for our healing kits, which, if you were to take the AP from and just add it to our health bar, would approximately triple our AP, bringing us back to the same numbers that we had in 4th and 5th gen. I don't want to see healing come back in PvP, so I would prefer to just get all of that AP as a lump sum at the start of the match, please. The next change I'd like to see is having hard lock removed entirely from PvP to give lightweights the ability to break lock consistently and avoid fire. As it stands now, lightweights are not able to effectively dodge fire, both because the enemy will not lose track of them thanks to the hard lock and because the netcode is attacker sided, so they're not able to accurately dodge based on visual cues. I'd like to see the damage bonus from Assault Boost severely reduced and the damage reduction entirely removed. Both of these things heavily contribute to the current meta and will continue to push any future metas in the same direction. Please make linear rifles and rifles deal high direct damage and low impact damage and increase the range of rifles in linear rifles, or decrease the impact of ricochet as a mechanic. Doing all of this stuff would cut out a proper playstyle for rifles and linear rifles that doesn't revolve entirely around stagger as a mechanic. While I think these systems changes would make the game better as a whole, talking about changes to specific weapons is less my forte. However, I'd love to see the more prominent options like the Zimmerman, the Coral Shield, and the Coral Plasma toned down, as they're quite strong. With all that out of the way, I think that brings us to the end of the video. If you're still here, please like and sub. I like seeing numbers go up.